In One Piece chapter 1120, we have two major Will of D reveals, the death of a friend, and a secret weapon against the Gorosei. The cover page continues Yamato's pilgrimage. Denjiro has captured the rock-throwing kids and plans on putting them in timeout. We also learn that the former retainer is now the daimyo of Kibi. 26 years ago, Dr. Vegapunk was still working on Punk Hazard, and was in his prime. We see Punk Hazard before its environment was ruined by a fight between admirals. A man was in the middle of begging Dr. Vegapunk to assist in the important task of studying the Void Century. He insisted that their world's history must not remain a mystery. This man was Professor Clover of Ohara. Dr. Vegapunk was with one of his artificial dragons. Clover told the scientist that their research needs experts from various fields. But Vegapunk reminded him that he works for the world government now. He can't afford to get himself involved. Upon closer inspection, this dragon's appearance does not line up with either of the artificial dragons we've seen before, so it must be another one of the 13 that were created. Dr. Vegapunk stressed the fact that Clover has gotten caught several times now. In fact, he was pretty sure there was a reason they kept letting him go. It could only mean that they were trying to flush out his comrades. Again, Dr. Vegapunk urged the man to let the past remain in the past. He didn't believe the answer to good and evil could be found in some old stories. Professor Clover grimly told the scientist that someone he grew up with had a D in their name and was killed right in front of him for it. This person was his older brother, the implication of which left Dr. Vegapunk's mouth agape. The scholar revealed that his real name is Cleve D. Clover. Back then, he claimed that he and his brother were just friends, so he could avoid being killed too. And cleave, in this spelling, is an Irish word that means sword. Clover wanted to know how he could possibly accept a world where someone can die just for having the wrong name. He was sure that history would keep being suppressed, and that people would always be left in the dark. Stella began to leave while telling the man that he would forget what he just heard. Even still, he refused to help and hoped that his colleague would stay safe. Clover rose to his feet and shouted the scientist's name. He proclaimed that the voices of the past were calling out to Vegapunk. The scholars of Ohara would crack the code, and from there, he was sure that Stella would not be able to ignore them any longer. 4 years later, which was 22 years ago, news came in from the West Blue that Ohara faced a Buster Call. The incident was regarded as a total massacre. The insidious Caesar the Clown was delighted to know that Professor Clover was finally dead. He believed that this was just the natural result of looking into the Void Century. He didn't expect anyone to ever try it again. Meanwhile, Dr. Vegapunk contemplated the pleas of his late friend. He sadly looked at Robin's first bounty poster. A few months later, Vegapunk visited Ohara's ruins. That's when he ran into Monkey D. Dragon and saw giants salvaging thousands of books. Stella was sure that Clover must have had an opportunity to escape, which could only mean that Clover chose to die. As he sobbed, Stella wondered if passing on his research was truly that important to his old friend. He considered them all to be fools for believing anyone would ever delve into such taboos after something like this. But of course, that's how the world's smartest man ended up involving himself. During the resumed broadcast, Dr. Vegapunk echoed the words of Professor Clover, that the voices of the past call out to you. There was no doubt in his mind that history is written by the victors. We'd see Zeph and Patty, an instance of slavery, and Robin covering her face as she cries. Vegapunk continued to say that as a result, the words of the vanquished are usually washed away. But he is just as sure that the truth can still be revealed if the oppressed can manage to carry it on their backs and endure. Stella was playing his part by sharing this knowledge with the world. Up in the Labostratum, since the ship wasn't moving, Zoro wondered what was going on, and insisted that they get a move on. But according to Lilith, they couldn't. Zoro emphasized the fact that it was only a matter of time before Nujuro continued his attack. Lilith agreed with him, but it was even worse than that. The Sunny could only travel so far. If the Elder messes with their trajectory at all, they won't make it. Just then, the skeletal horse monster prepared himself to strike. Lilith ran the numbers and figured out that their landing was in jeopardy due to a lack of wind. They would need to get rid of Nujuro first to avoid total destruction. Just then, Lilith was caught off guard by something. Atlas held nothing back as her fist collided with Lilith's face. Zoro, Usopp, and Chopper were in disbelief. They all wanted to know why she did what she did. Atlas just focused on Lilith and managed to trigger a snap sound. Then the big punk turned to the Straw Hats. She had decided to leave her sister in their hands. She told them to launch their ship, because she would make sure that they make it. They still wondered what she was even talking about. At the same time, York let the elders know that Lilith's connection to Punk Records had been cut, meaning that Atlas was the only one left for them to deal with. Because Lilith is unconscious, like Stella, they don't know that she's still alive. Nami had Zoro take her inside the ship. Nusjuro began his approach. The Straw Hats still wanted an explanation, but Atlas wasted no time and rocketed towards the galloping elder, while Jinbei wasted no time taking control of the ship. The helmsman was sure that they would regret any hesitation. In turn, Zoro shouted for Brook to do the honors. The skeleton got to work immediately. In those few seconds, Atlas made it to the elder, and the two locked eyes. Her arm was severed, but the Vegapunk of violence would not relent and grabbed hold of the creature. With determined eyes, she continued pushing her opponent. The two were sent back and out of the way as the Sunny finally blasted off. Chopper and Usopp clutched tightly onto Jinbei. Dr. Vegapunk continued to pray that the world would receive his message. At the same time, Vice Admiral Hound was being informed about the giant snake, boar, bird, and robot fighting on the island. The Navy official had no idea where these big monsters were coming from. Luffy recognized the robot from Vegapunk's scrapyard and was really excited. Frankie and the Giants were also excited to see an Iron Giant. Emmet referred to Luffy as Joy Boy and expressed how happy he was to see him again. Luffy just stared for a while. Then he looked over his shoulder, thinking the giant worm was talking, but Emmet pointed out that he was the source. Dr. Vegapunk recognized that he was only able to provide them with a one-sided perspective of a 900-year-old conflict. Emmet claimed to have shown up like he had in the past. Joy Boy's enemy is his enemy. He was happy that he could fight for Joy Boy again, while Luffy just thought it was cool that the robot could talk. Emmet promised to protect Joy Boy from danger. War Curry insisted on completely destroying their enemies. Mars was pretty sure that Vegapunk's message was almost over. The giant pirates cheerfully prepared to take their leave. Brogy asked Luffy if the big guy was one of his friends. Luffy thought about it for a moment. Then he denied having any connection to the thing. He told them that the robot was talking about protecting some guy named Joy Boy, but Luffy had no idea who that even was. I really wonder how long he's going to be oblivious about this transformation of his. The Giants didn't hear the robot say a single thing, which surprised Luffy. So yeah, more voice of all things stuff. Although Bonnie is exhausted, her powers are still affecting Vice Admiral Bluegrass. The rejuvenated Marine ordered their troops to fire on the pirate vessel. Dr. Vegapunk advocated for others to scrutinize and learn from the past from all possible perspectives. The doctor only wished that he could have had more time. The massive maw of St. Jude Peter was met by the prepared arm of the Iron Giant. Dr. Vegapunk spoke of those who cannot be stopped. Both Frankie and Sanji were really excited to see what the Iron Giant was going to fire out. I didn't expect Sanji to be this enthusiastic. Maybe Emmet is actually a girl or something. Jupiter continued forwards as Emmet suffered from a bit of projectile dysfunction. That's when the robot knew it messed up. The Straw Hat started freaking out and told the big guy to watch out. In the next instant, the Iron Giant looked like Toji. Its left arm had been completely devoured. Its right arm was the only thing keeping the creature at bay. They bemoaned the robot's fate on the ship. The last 900 years have not been kind to the Iron Giant's weaponry. Saint Saturn rushed forward while telling Jupiter to crush their enemies. The Spider Ox wanted to finally put an end to Vegapunk's transmission. He leapt off his fellow elder's massive body. From there, he landed on the ship of the Giants, refusing to let them escape. The elder immediately set his sights on Bonnie and Kuma. Just then, Sanji noticed the Thousand Sunny and something else above them. Zoro told them all to grab something since they'd be falling. The crew wondered if they would really be able to make it. Atlas braced herself. Nusjuro wondered if she planned on using herself as some sort of great sacrifice. Then, he delivered the finishing blow. Atlas responded with a huge smile on her face. She claimed to just be lending a hand. Then she exploded, propelling the Straw Hats even further. They were going to make it to the water. Chopper and Usopp knew that it was all thanks to Atlas. Yet another amazing character goes out like Pedro. Shout out to the punk of violence. Dr. Vegapunk once again mentioned how the Pirate King, Gol D. Roger, managed to circumnavigate the world. He was sure that they heard the entire lost history. York was celebrating the demise of her siblings. She exclaimed that now she was the only Vegapunk left. But as he regenerated from the explosion, Nujuro disagreed, saying Saturn knew that they still needed to shut Stella up. War Curry and Jupiter moved as one, and intended to finish things once and for all. Emeth could tell that he had rusted away, although he was pretty sure that this was the time that Joy Boy spoke of, so he wondered if he could use it. Hopefully Emeth is talking about something that can actually deal with these monsters. Dr. Vegapunk was sure that the Pirate King's crew must have heard the voices of the past in the purest sense. The Doctor was sure that everyone watching had come to the same conclusion, and he hoped that it would be what decides how things go in the future. However, the world at large knows the Pirate King as Gold Roger instead of Gold D. Roger. That alone should be enough to place even greater emphasis on uncovering more information on the D initial. After all, the world government provided that bit of censorship on purpose. Now that it's almost done, what do you guys think will be the most impactful bit of information shared by the Doctor? At the very least, the rising sea levels are probably the most universally damning. As always, I am Sliceable Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.